What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and this is our NFL Wildcard Weekend betting preview. Today, we're going to build our Wildcard Weekend six-pack of against the spread bets, some totals in there as well. With the help of my co-host, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stucky, coming off a perfect week. Congratulations, brother. How you doing?
What's going on, brother? Yeah, I said last week I got to win the rest of the bets on this podcast the rest of the way to make this a
Hey,
good season. So hopefully can have a couple more sweeps. But yeah, snowed in here. I know that you're dealing with the opposite of snow out west. My thoughts are with anyone dealing with any of the downfall from just the horrific situation in Southern California with the fires. How you're all good and safe.
yeah, I'm all good. Appreciate it, brother. Did have to momentarily evac a night ago, but everything's all good for now. But yeah, it's rough out there. But it's gonna be. You asked about that Rams game. I think that game. I think it should be fine.
Yeah,
Like
obviously
it's
pales in comparison
yeah,
to like the impact of the
yeah.
fires, but I was just curious if like does it have any could it have any impact on like travel if they move the game or
I
what?
would doubt it just because it's the stadium is so inland and these fires are kind of on a perimeter along the in the woods and whatnot. So I think it'll be straight, but who knows? I mean, you're talking about wind, so wind and fire, which is very unpredictable. But enough of this fire talk. Let's get into some fire bets. Week 18, 5-1 on a six pack for us. The only loss was that Kansas City shutout. 51-45, making it a race. Stuck another sweep. I mean, you could overtake me if I go over. This week, you are up first in the six pack. Where are you going?
For my first pick of the wild card weekend six pack, I'm going with the Green Bay Packers +3 in the first half against the Philadelphia Eagles. -115 out there. If you shop hard enough, you can find -112. But -115 is fine. For what it's worth, historically wild card weekend, at least in recent history, it's been an underdog round. Dogs have in the playoffs. We'll see. It's been a favorite year, but we'll see if that script flips in the playoffs. But dogs in the wild card round since 2017, 24-12 against the spread. But I do show a little bit of value in this number with the Packers for the full game. Now, the Packers, to me, they are a bit of an enigma. Come after that game against Seattle, I said, man, this team, this is a top five team in the NFL. And then they end the season with a bit of a whimper. They a disappointing effort. I know the score was close, but against the Minnesota Vikings and how they came out there, I thought the Vikings had a pretty good game plan that caught them off guard. And then they lose to the Bears to close out the regular season. When they stepped up in class outside, and by the way, they were in one of the toughest divisions, if not the toughest in the NFL. So they had one of the toughest schedules in the NFL, whereas the Eagles had one of the easiest schedules in the NFL, which is something worth noting. But the Packers were also a blocked field goal away from going 0-6 in the division. When they did step up outside of their division against playoff teams, they did win both, but it wasn't the prettiest efforts. They beat the Rams and the Texans by a combined 7 points, and both those teams were missing like key weapons on offense. But I still, adjusting for opponent, I still have this team as fringe top five in the NFL, and there, there's still questions here because Christian Watson is out, and their explosive play rate falls off a cliff without him. Even their rushing numbers fall off without him because he just opens up so much. There, Reed is going to have to step up over the middle of the field with those deep crossers. Dobbs is going to have to step up, and Jordan Love is going to have to be efficient throwing the ball here against this Eagles defense, which is real. I mean, they're number one in the NFL pretty much across the board since week seven-ish, following their bye. They've been dominant. Schedule's been soft, but look at the Cincy look at the Ravens game, which have to give you confidence that this Eagles defense is for real. So Love's going to have to be on his game. Do you get the good Jordan Love, the bad Jordan Love? I don't know. But I show too much value in this number to not take +3 first half. And the reason that I prefer a first half is number one, the Eagles have been slow starters all year long. I mean, this is a team that they average 3.6 points in the first quarter. That's 21st in the league. 12.4 in the first half. That's 13th in the league. And then if you look at their second half numbers, they're top five, averaging about 14.8 points per game. Meanwhile, the Packers averaged 6.4 and 13.6 in the first quarter and first half, respectively. That's fourth and sixth in the NFL. So they're a bit faster of starters. To frame it another way, Eagles, from an EPA perspective, their first two drives of the game, bottom three EPA per drive. The rest of the way, top three offense after the first two drives. That's even more important in this game because these are two of the most run-heavy offenses in the entire league. So this could be a game with fewer possessions, especially just in one half, which makes that getting +3 even more valuable if the Eagles do come out and start slow. On top of that, LaFleur, I expect him to have a really good script, which will help Green Bay. And Jalen Hurts, I expect him to play, but will there be a bit of a dip in efficiency after coming back from the concussion? I know it's going to be about 20 days, but some data suggests that there will be. And will there just be some rust early on? And this Eagles offense has all the pieces to be great, right? The receivers, great offensive line, Saquon Barkley, historic season. But if you adjust for opponent, rushing offense, obviously with Barkley was great. The passing offense was kind of mediocre. Part of that is because Hurts is just holding the ball way too long. He's being indecisive, which is leading to, I mean, 25% of his dropbacks lead to either a sack, a throwaway, or a scramble, which leads the league. It's the highest rate in the league. And you might look at his touchdown to interception ratio numbers and say, oh, he's had a really good year. But man, if you look at his big time throws to turnover worthy plays, he's been a bit fortunate. And this is a Green Bay defense that has lived off of turnovers. I wouldn't be surprised if Hurts makes a mistake or two. This is a rematch of a game earlier this season in week one where we saw Hurts make a couple of those critical mistakes. I don't take too much from that game. It was week one. There was two new defensive coordinators on bad field conditions. But yeah, I like +3 here. My worry for Green Bay in the full game is right after the Eagles kind of shake that rust off. We've seen how good this offense can be as the game progresses. My worry would be the Packers secondary not being able to hold up. Although a good thing is Hurts doesn't really throw over the middle of the field, which is where the Packers have been super vulnerable because their linebackers aren't great. But without Jair Alexander, who's out for the year, when he was off the field this year, Green Bay allowed a 71% completion percentage, 96 passer rating. With him, 61% completion percentage, 77 passer rating. They were so much better. Their corners are very vulnerable. So I would worry about just like, even if the Eagles had to play a bit from behind, they shouldn't be too worried. And then the Eagles are just such good front runners in the second half, so they can put together those just methodical 8 to 10 minute, just clock killing, momentum killing, just soul sucking drives. That's what I would be a bit concerned about with the Packers in the second half. But yeah, give me the 3 in the first half. I think potential another slow start for Philly. Hurts might be, a little rusty here, and I expect a good script and not that many possessions in the first half. Give me the Pack first half +3. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I thought about the first half under for this one for kind of the same reasons. It's interesting though that the full game is 4.5, and the market is kind of coming in on the Eagles, in the first half, especially considering they are the kind of they have been a slow starting team. I guess the one concern, if you're looking at it from, the Packers side in the first half, is it can kind of come down to who gets the ball first kind of variance thing. If there's limited possessions, you might just not have enough. Like, each team might only have, 2-3 possessions in the first half if both of these teams run the way they have been early in the game. So there's some variance there, but I don't. What are your thoughts on just why the first half is priced higher for the Eagles, considering their season-long numbers and the Packers' season-long numbers? Because you would have kind of expected.
I think it'll eventually I think it'll eventually come down everywhere. You're starting to see it already, so I think that it'll close 2.5. And for what it's worth, Matt LaFleur has been great as an underdog. 15-4 against the spread as an underdog with 3 or more points, and he's 27-12 straight up in same season revenge spots. So yeah, I think the Packers have a really good shot here. It's going to come down to Love and how he plays. Right, they're going to lean on Jacobs a bit, but in order to eventually win this game, he's going to have to throw the ball efficiently, and he's going to have to without the explosive play threat of Watson. We need good Jordan Love here, which is it's a big unknown, but I think there's value in this number. And yeah, I like Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty too. Is Love 100% healthy too? I mean, that's another question mark.
I am assuming so. Like, I think it was just like I think he literally just was like a bruise on his elbow. The one of the reasons why I believe that is he was about to go back in the game.
Yes, but he didn't. And
I think that they were just all right, who cares? Let's not risk anything. We already have you out. But the fact that he was throwing and looked fine, and I know a couple people who have given me some insight there, said he's going to be fine. Okay. But that's certainly worth noting.
Yeah. No, I actually didn't like the fact that he didn't go back in once he started throwing. That's what kind of gave me the antennas raised. But as long as you got some information that he's going to be straight, yeah, that's big, because if he's hurt and Watson and you don't get explosives, it's really hard to just go play, success on the Eagles. I mean, they're just so good on defense. But don't hate the first half, because I do think it's a little tilted. The number is tilted in the opposite direction. I do see the Eagles winning this game, and probably by more than 4.5. For my first pick in the second overall of the wild card 6-pack, I'm going with the Texans Chargers under 43. You can still find a 43 out there. Try to get to 43. That is a key number, but I think this is going to be a very low scoring game. You have on one side the Houston Texans, who it's just Nico Collins and Joe Mixon. And the thing I like about this matchup is the Texans, I think, are going to come out and try to run the ball. And sometimes, they at times under Slowick, they've actually done that too much. But this year, they've kind of tilted a little too much toward early down passing. I think, especially once all their receivers went down, they were trying to stay ahead of the chains. But I mean, they're just allowing so much pressure that you are going to want to run the ball. The Chargers have been shakier versus the run this year. So I think Houston will have some success and, be able to kind of chew some clock and keep the ball for longer than they've had in the past. And on the other side, I think the Chargers are in a spot where they're facing this Texan defense. And I know, Ward and Petrie are out at safety. That is big, but they have been those guys have been playing in the slot and whatnot. They still have their, guys that have been deep and play action. They've been really good against play action. And the Chargers are fourth in play action rate. They've been using play action a lot this year. Herbert, 3.4 yards per attempt more with play action than without. That's 5th best in the league. Well, Houston defense against play action, number 1 in success rate, number 4 in yards per attempt, number 6 in EPA per play. if you could take away some of that play action, Houston can also stop the run. The Chargers have both of these teams have shown like they have run inefficiently on early downs. So but I do expect them to kind of run here. It's a playoff game, Chargers third straight road game. And really, if you're the Chargers, it's McConkey. I know Johnston had the big game, but Houston's really good against outside guys, so it's really just McConkey. He's gonna do his damage, but that's gonna be over the middle. Kwaka's gonna keep running. I think that both of these teams defensively have the upper hand. Justin Herbert going up against defenses that don't blitz as much. He is 7.2 yards an attempt, no blitz versus 8.7 when he's blitzed. And his EPA per play when he's blitzed is about triple his EPA when not blitzed. In Houston, that's one thing. They've been getting pressure. They haven't been blitzing. Their non-blitz pressure rate this year, 27.3%. That's seventh in the league. Their run defense, they're top 3 in adjusted line yards, top 4 in yards against running backs. So I think that the Houston defense has some significant matchup edges. I think the Chargers defense, the same. Nico Collins has been averaging under 10 yards a catch with Dell and Diggs off the field. So the explosiveness is just not there for Houston the same way, but I do think they'll be able to run it. Neither of these teams turn the ball over much, so you should get some long drives here. So yeah, give me the under 43 Texans Chargers. And for a long time in the playoffs, you had indoor games going over. About the last 5 years, that's kind of flipped. You have postseason indoor games in the wild card round, 12-6 to the under. So not really worried about that trend. I know somebody's probably going to bring it up, but I just think this has all the makings of a defensive battle. The Texans have been bottom 5 in early down success rate all year. And the Chargers number 1 in the red zone. So Houston, no explosiveness, then they still have to punch it in, even if they get down the field, and it's just tough to do against the Chargers. But like the way the Texans defense matches up. So give me the under.
Well, that'll lead into my pick. It's a natural segue into my second pick and the third overall of the wild card weekend 6-pack. I'm going with the Houston Texans +3, -115 out there. I'd go up to -120 is fine. I also think it'll be a lower scoring game. 3 is super valuable in that scenario if it does indeed play out the way that we both think it will. Am I concerned about the Texans? Sure, they finished with a dead even point differential, 0. You mentioned early downs. They were 31st in success rate on early downs. They're also more likely to turn it over. Herbert just never throws picks. Historically, one of the best of all time in interception rate. The Texans, their offense and how their offensive line handles the Chargers when they do blitz, and I expect them to up their blitz rates here. That does concern me. It's a great matchup as far as the Chargers tackles versus the Texans defensive ends and edge rushers. On paper, you could say that the Chargers have the horses to control their edge rushers, which would be absolutely massive with Alton Slater. But at the end of the day, the numbers matter. I can't get to this number in any world. I mean, I'm at Chargers under a point favorite. I have this closer to a coin flip. I am very so this I just give me that you're gonna so a game that I make under 1, you're gonna give me 3 in a game with a total of 43 trending down that I think will be low scoring all day long. For what it's worth, home dogs in the playoffs over the past 10 years, 10-3-2 against the spread. I still have CJ Stroud, who I believe in, still have Nico Collins. I do agree that they're going to be able to run it. I think that this defense is still elite. There's been some injuries, but I think they'll hold their own here. I am curious to see what they do with their corners. So you had Petrie went down, then Ward went down. That all important slot role. Do they put Lassiter back there?
Miles Bryant?
Miles Bryant played last week, but Akuda was out. He's back. So do they put Akuda on the outside? Do they put Lassiter in the slot? And by the way, like Lassiter, McConkey, Georgia, all Georgia rookie matchup. Some familiarity there, which is interesting. Um, Miles Bryan, he won't kill you there, at least.
He's been okay this year, but I mean, it's small sample. So, I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
Lassiter, I think, has struggled more, but also small sample. So he's
yeah,
been good outside.
I like him more on the outside side, but yeah, so I don't know exactly what they're gonna do. They're probably gonna try some different things there, but that's just something that I'm watching for. But just number wise, I have to take the 3 here. It was the first bet that I made this week, and I, like this also psychologically. I mean, how many times have we seen this in not just the NFL, but in football in general? The entire world is just written off the Texans for dead. Yeah, just they have no chance here. I mean, I project this at 1. I get all the Texans struggles. Under 1. Like the Texans can come in here, play free, loose. They're gonna play the disrespect card all week. Um, like it's crazy. I've never seen like people are giving the Broncos more of a chance. The Broncos are a 9-point underdog to Josh Allen, and this Chargers team, they're way ahead of the curve. I respect Herbert. I respect the staff, but they had the lowest strength of victory in the playoffs. They beat one playoff team all year, the Broncos. That's it. Here's who they beat on the road: the Panthers, the Browns, the Patriots, the Raiders, the Falcons, and they were dominated in that game, and the Broncos. They're one playoff team that they beat. That's it. I so like 3? No. Give me the Texans +3. Let's go, Stroud. But I agree,
Yeah,
low scoring game, 3 super
I,
valuable.
I agree with you on this one. This would have been one of mine as well, because I think when you look at these two teams, elite defense, very talented quarterback, one good receiver. I know Quentin Johnson had the big game, not calling him a good receiver yet. It's still too early for that. So yeah,
But yeah,
kind of the same team.
Good luck against Stingley.
Right. And so it's kind of the same team. The Texans have the home field advantage. I mean, Chargers have the coaching edge. So, but like you said, I make this, yeah, like a Chargers a little bit over 1, and the market's at 3. And I feel like that's just, kind of settling
And
around
we
that
both
key
think it's
number.
going to be lower scoring, which makes it even
Yeah.
more valuable.
Yeah. But I mean, just even if you look at it from that more, step back, bird's eye view of just, okay, Texans been sucking all year. They're easy first round, kind of like people are looking at the Steelers, I guess. It's like, but these are the same team. Like talented quarterback, elite defense, Texans at one good receiver, Texans at home. So yeah, I totally agree here. I think this is a winnable game for the Tech. Like just like everyone's kind of looking at the Texans, like, oh man, that I wish we want to draw them. It's like this is a winnable game for the Texans. Probably the most winnable game and matchup they could have had.
Yeah, and I still like Stroud against zone coverages, which is going to see a ton of here. The Chargers, their blitz factors do concern me, but they don't get a ton of pressure, which is what has crippled this offense.
Oh,
And I do think Mixon will be able to
everyone
run
gets
it.
pressure on Houston. Let's not get too great. Like,
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
there's gonna be some pressure, but that's the thing.
Yeah,
It's kind of
like Derwin James coming off the edge
yeah. Oh
scares me.
yeah, yeah.
But I think they're
But
going to be able to run it here too a bit to like sustain drives.
and you can
Because yeah, if
sack
you
Herbert on the other side, so that equals it out. And if you look at Herbert, 3 sacks or more on Herbert, the Chargers offense essentially is like a 20 and under type of offense, like right there. So
yeah
Texas might not
yeah
even need many points.
yeah I think people are just like. And I mean, I'm seeing everyone saying the Chargers they're saying the Chargers are going to beat the Chiefs next week. Like they're already
Yeah.
skipping ahead to that this game is over and done with. This is still the NFL. I know it's been a favorites year, but um, yeah, don't be surprised if I'm filling out a bracket. By the way, like a playoff bracket or like a pick'em pool, I'm picking the Texans.
Yeah, we talked about this. Like they have their issues, but they also have some things going for them. Like they stymied Josh Allen. Their defense stymied Josh Allen. That was impressive. They still have one of the most talented quarterbacks in the game, one of the best receivers in the game, and an elite defense. And that's the thing that they didn't have last year. Like this defense can kind of they're kind of like, I don't want to say the Steelers because Tomlin is in a different, so much better than D'Amico, but like they're like if the Steelers defense had like a CJ Stroud that could just pop off every once in a while, it's better than not. So yeah, I totally agree. For my second pick and the fourth overall of the wild card weekend 6-pack, I'm going with the Ravens Steelers under 44. 43 and a half is fine as well. 43 key number here, but we had our low scoring game in the first matchup. We had our high scoring game, 34-17 in the second matchup. I think it goes back the other way. Divisional matchup, third matchup between these two teams, all pretty much coming in the second half of the year, if I'm not mistaken. And Zay Flowers for the Ravens looks very iffy, and that's big because Lamar Jackson, I believe he has something like 50 more first or 80 more first read throws to Zay Flowers than like the second highest, which is Mark Andrews. So like that just really changes the Ravens offense if Flowers is limited or unavailable for this game. It reduces the explosiveness. It just kind of magnifies that the Steelers, pass rush, and the Steelers have always been good at defending mobile quarterbacks. They have Highsmith, they have Watt, they have Hayward. So I expect that front to get at him. It's, couldn't be any more desperate. 4 straight losses, divisional opponent. So I expect a Steelers defensive rebound from that game a few weeks ago when they gave up.
You also have to keep in mind in that game, Deshaun Elliott, Dante Jackson, 2 of the starters in the secondary didn't play. Ogunjobi was also out.
Yeah.
And now granted, Pickens was out for the Steelers, but then Joey Porter went down early. So you were down a starting safety and your 2 starting corners. And
with
Lamar,
no real prep,
historically, has struggled against the Steelers' defense. They just couldn't cover that. I mean, it was easy pickings on the outside, as you would imagine. They were down 3 starters
and no prep. And no real prep because it was like a short week holiday season, and you had in-game injuries that exacerbated your other injuries. So yeah, I totally agree.
And they can't run the stuff that they want to run if Porter's not out there, and he'll be back this week. Yeah.
So the Steelers trending up injury-wise in terms of the defensive matchup versus Lamar, and I mean you pointed it out. I'm sure everyone's starting to notice now, but this Raven defense has really turned it up. They made some changes. What was it, like week 11? They moved Kyle Hamilton around. He looks like he's going to be fine. I know he got hurt, but he did practice Wednesday. So if he's back, I mean, this Raven defense has been allowing next to nothing. Against the Texans, they give up nothing. Shutout against the Browns, 10 points? Okay, fine. But they've been holding everybody under 20 since let me double check that. I think it's under 20. 14, 17, 2, and 10. The 4 games since the bye. Granted, Giants, Steelers, Texans, Browns, not the best competition, but that's what you're supposed to do against.
They also played to face the Chargers and the Eagles since week 11. That's when they made those changes at safeties. They were rotating safeties all year long. They went to Washington and Hamilton on the back end, Humphrey in the slot, and that fixed a lot of their issues. Communication, well, number one, just like with the blown assignments, Hamilton in the back end. Also, the underrated thing is communication-wise. They simplified a lot of the things that they were doing. They simplified the calls. They simplified how they were adjusting pre-snap. The call goes in to Roquan. Roquan basically just communicates to Hamilton, and Hamilton makes sure everyone else is lined up. And he has gotten the secondary in the right place at the right time. And then just Washington and him on the back end have made a world of a difference compared, to some of the washed vets that they had there earlier this season. And Humphrey's been amazing in the slot, playing at an all-pro level. Just to put some numbers to it, first 10 weeks, the Ravens are 25th in scoring, 27th in yards. They've led the league in both since week 11. They went from 32nd in pass defense to second, 30th in expected points per dropback to first, 32nd in explosive pass play rate to 10th. And since making that switch at safety over the past 7 games, number one in scoring, number one in yards, number one in pass D, number one in yards per play allowed, number one in EPA per play. And now, granted, some of the offenses they faced have been underwhelming, but 5 of those 7 teams did at least make the playoffs. Chargers, Eagles, Steelers, Texans, and then they got the layups with the Giants and the Browns. Earlier in the season, I was saying that it wasn't as bad as it looked because if you looked at some of their contested catch rates, they were just getting a bit unlucky. But there was definite issues at safety. There was miscommunication issues. So the truth's probably somewhere in the middle. They probably aren't dominant number one. They probably weren't like the worst earlier in the season, but they're very good now. They fixed a lot of those issues. And Russ doesn't really throw over the middle of the field, which is where I still think you want to attack this team. So, and this Steelers offense is headed in the wrong direction. So, go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Oh no, that was great analysis. I always love your Ravens breakdowns. And yeah, no, I'm in agreement here. And some things I noticed is Russell Wilson, nice story. And he came on midseason. Yes, he's the right move over Justin Fields. But I started looking at, okay, like how are the Steelers going to have success on offense against this version of the Ravens defense? Like, okay, well, they're playing, some more single high. Well, Russ is 27th in success rate against single high, 33rd in success rate against two high. So he has a high, like some splits he has like a high EPA or a high yards per attempt, but it's all just like feast or famine, boom or bust. And the Ravens, they've been eliminating that recently. And then you look at him, okay, well, the Ravens, they've played a lot of different ways. Like they've kind of mixed it up. They played single high, they played two high, they blitzed, they played man, right smack dab middle, 17th in man coverage rate. There's really no Russell Wilson split, like no blitz, 27th in success rate, blitzed, 29th in success rate, single high, 27th, two high, 33rd. Like there's no real consistency to this offense. And these numbers are with Pickens in all but, those 3 games. So it's not like we're just saying, okay, well, we're ignoring the splits without Pickens. I mean, we saw Pickens come back and they put up 17 points on the Cincinnati Bengals defense. I know they simplified some things too, but you play a 19-17 game with the Bengals, I got to take your under because number one, it's impressive to hold the Bengals to 19. And number two, it's just abysmal to in a game that you wanted to win, to score 17 points against that Bengals defense. And they didn't even gain many yards on top of that. Like what was their yard? Let's see. The Pittsburgh Steelers gained 193 yards against one of the worst defenses in the league in a game that they wanted after losing 3 straight. This is where we are with the Steelers offense. So yeah, the Ravens probably cover this, but don't love the Zay Flowers being out. So I'll go with the under for now. Love it.
Yeah, I like the under here as well. But if you had to make me take a side, the market is saying the Ravens cover, and for what it's worth, historically, double-digit favorites have been really good bets in the NFL playoffs. Yep. There's usually a reason why they're double-digit favorites. I think 17-1 straight up, 13-5 against the spread since 2010. But if I had to take a side here, I'd go with the Steelers. Like they're just going to ugly this up. Their defense is going to be healthier. No Zay Flowers is important. And historically, they have Lamar's number. This will probably be a low-scoring game. I think they'll find a way to stay in it. And you'll have Tomlin will be basically on your side as if you bet the dog and the under. I mean, his quote today was pretty funny. He said, "For us, it's about playing." They asked him why they keep running the ball so much. For us, it's about playing to a personality that we prescribe to engineer victory, to possess the ball. And a component of possessing the ball is not only time, but managing risk. And obviously, there's less risk with running the ball than throwing it. And sometimes that's a component of this discussion as well. Basically, just telling you, like, I'm going to try to get this under home.
Yeah. And basically, my quarterback is outside the top 25 in success rates.
He wants to keep it close,
run the ball and hope.
The fourth quarter, and then hope Watt stripped Lamar. But you got to remember, this line was around the touchdown in the first meeting. 7, 7.5. I know Pickens was out, but their entire defense went down. And there was that key that Wilson fumble really changed the game. And now no Flowers and like you have Pickens in there. The defense is healthy, and now you're getting 10. I think it's a bit too high.
Yeah.
So the
I
market's saying
mean,
Ravens cover,
it's
but
it's that 2024 like you're I feel I'm with you. I wanted to take the Steelers. I even thought about it for the six pack, but I feel like 2024 says Ravens win 17-3.
I get it. And I had no feeling any team this year except the Ravens.
Yeah,
That's
now you do.
that's what my gut says, is that
Okay.
The Ravens win, Steelers cover.
All right.
All right, for
Where you going for your third?
my third pick and the fifth overall of the wild card weekend six pack, I'm going with the Los Angeles Rams plus 1.5 against the Minnesota Vikings plus 1.5 out there at FanDuel. Minus 115 plus one is fine as well. It's widely available. This is a very interesting game. To me, right, these two teams already played earlier in the season. It was a disadvantage situation. It was not an advent. Let me say that again. It was a disadvantageous situation
It was
for the
not an
Vikings.
advantageous situation.
Um,
It's not an
it
advantageous
was not an
situation.
advantageous situation, tricky situational spot for the Vikings in that game. Short week, going across the country, and they didn't even think Nakua was going to play. Flores has come out and said like we were shocked that Nakua played. So they didn't really have like they didn't really change their game plan up. They didn't blitz as much as they usually do. They didn't really change their coverages up. I am super curious. Why I love the NFL playoffs is, and this is part of trying to crack the code of each game, is a lot of this will come down, and this is why coaching is so important and coordinators specifically. A lot of this will come down to like curveballs, in-game adjustments, and then like what curveballs do coordinators throw out there and that they've been saving for the high leverage spots. And you have a great matchup here, McVay, who could always cook up something that the other team isn't expecting, versus Flores. Like, does Flores go surprise man here? Does he go man heavy? You don't really want to zone Stafford and these receivers. They'll just quick pass you to death all day. And I don't believe in this Viking secondary on the back end. They just have to get pressure. And Stafford, he's one of only six quarterbacks with a turnover worthy play rate north of 5.3%. And all six of them are over 7%. That's like what has to be done here. So, like, do they play man and then bring a ton of pressure? Um, That's so I'm so curious to watch this. I love this chess match. But at the end of the day, I have to take the better quarterback as a home dog, basically off of a bye, which I think was really needed. As a team that didn't have a bye, especially with Stafford, older, I think he really benefited from that bye week. The team that hasn't had a week 5 or 6 bye week. Rams actually finished with a higher weighted DVOA. I'd make them a tiny, small favorite here. The Rams can get pressure. And I think that's the key against Darnold here. And coming into this game, I mean, you want to talk about a nightmare scenario last week against Detroit. You lose the bye, you lose the one seed. Your kicker is now potentially lacking confidence, and Reichard doesn't look confident out there. And by the way, Cardi does. You have two kickers, and what should be a close game. Two kickers going in the opposite direction. Uh, Cardi almost, he was, I was throwing swear words at the TV last week because I had the Seahawks and Cardi kept hitting 58 yarders on me. I'm like, where is this Rams special teams? And then Darnold. Where is Darnold's head at? Where is he at mentally? I mean, he's got to be shaken after that. That was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. I, I mean, that was as bad as it gets. Missing throws. It looks like the ghosts were back. And by the way, this will be his first ever playoff start. You're going to hear this stat a lot, but Quarterbacks making their first playoff start against the quarterback with playoff experience, 1937-1 against the spread. Better quarterback at home. Great chess match of coaches. Give me the Rams.
Yeah, I
Vikings,
thought
by the
about
way,
this
like
one.
they're ahead of schedule. They're like they way overperformed this year. I hinted that I'm not a believer. I got a ton of flack for it after they beat the Packers, but they went on a 10-game winning streak before that Lions loss. They got swept by the Lions. The only playoff team that they beat over that stretch was the Packers by 2 at home. That's it. Uh, there's this team has some more holes than you might believe for a 14-win team. It's unfortunate. I mean, O'Connell, hell of a job to win 4. They lost their left tackle too. To do what he did with Darnold is amazing, but a little bit of fool's gold. I I like the Rams. I think you agree.
Yeah, I do. I'm a little nervous about it, only because there is like a
I'm a
part of
nervous
me
just
that,
like buy low, sell like it's
yeah,
like
it's like
everyone's just jumping off the Vikings after last
yeah,
week.
yeah, and it's like
Um,
because like you talk about like I mean I went on a crazy losing streak, so like you talk about having some joy, like that was a great way to end the regular season. Like I had the under 57, and like to see Darnold just do that, it was just like that was joy. But now I feel like there is a part of me that says Vikings went on that win streak, very well coached team with the talent to match, and they didn't. And like you said, they didn't really face a schedule that gave them many tests outside of the Lions and the Rams. So a part of me says it was probably good for them to get punched in the mouth in week 18. And now it's week 19, and it's like now the playoffs are starting. It's the Rams would have to upset them twice as an underdog. That's the part of me that says like I don't know, but I do agree. I think this is more of a coin flip game. I feel like back in the day, the Vikings would have been like 3-point favorites. Now the market's so sharp that they're 1.5. So I don't know if I'm gonna
I
be
just
honest
go
with you or
back
not, but
to I just go back to I think this game will be close regardless. At the end, towards the end of the game, if I need a drive, I want Stafford over Darnold, and I think that's going to ultimately make the difference in this game. I also will look. Stafford's been one of the best quarterbacks to back live as an underdog um, over the past 15 years. The Vikings jump out. Look for the Rams live as well. Um,
I, I disagree with that. I know what you're getting at, but I actually don't want Stafford facing Viking like in Vikings in must pass situations. Like because like the whole thing, I think the weakness of the Rams is that they really can't protect as good as like they can't protect well, and so they kind of need it to be ball out, and Stafford is not evading sacks or doing anything moving around the pocket. So I think I would much rather the Rams like get the ball, get down the field, Kyron punches it in, and they're kind of playing from ahead. If they
well,
go
yeah,
down, I think
clearly,
it could
clear.
spiral. I think
Uh,
it spirals a lot more. Like I think that's the weakness of the Rams. Like they everything is just kind of McVay has done a masterful job just kind of building this offense around the fact that Stafford cannot escape pressure and his line can't protect. So yeah, if they get down, I don't want Minnesota just teeing off on Stafford and like they can't hand it to Kyron like 8 times in the drive.
yeah, I do think the Rams will be able to run it. And because I think the Vikings run D, which is very good statistically, is a bit overrated. They're in favorable game states all year. You dig a little deeper into some, I mean, just like look at
They're
last
mid
week.
pack. They're mid pack.
Yeah,
14th in
it's
line yards, which is adjusted for opponent. So
yeah,
that's
and I think that
yeah.
and they were in favorable game states for a lot. Like I think that yeah, it's just I think this is more coin flip. Yeah, I make the Rams a slight favorite, and I'm going to take the better quarterback at home. Darnold after that, now Darnold after last week's performance, making his first ever playoff start on the road, could get dicey. And don't sleep on Reichert. I think he's lost confidence as a kicker. That could end up making the difference as well. Where are you going for your last pick?
All right, for my third and final pick, the sixth overall of the wild card weekend six pack, going with the Tampa Bay Bucks -3 against the Washington Commanders. And I love this matchup for the Bucks. Uh, Number one, they love the blitz. Jaden Daniels hasn't been as good as efficient against the blitz. He is at a 45% success rate against the blitz compared to 52% when he's not blitzed. His touchdown rate goes down, and same thing. And the Bucks, they're getting healthier. Winfield practiced, Dean practiced.
Huge.
Yeah, because that secondary. I mean, I don't think people realize just how banged up the Bucks defense has been all year, and we're still missing a couple. Who are we missing? We're still missing a safety, but we're getting pretty healthy here. Bucks can stop the run. They've been one of the best run defenses with Vita Vea in the lineup. That's going to be an issue for Washington because really Washington is Jaden Daniels on offense. The offensive line is, Biotish is banged up. Lucas is banged up. But it's not really a great supporting cast for Jaden Daniels. I know you got Eckler back, but it's really Jaden Daniels carrying and doing some amazing stuff. But all the way that the Bucs scheme on defense is kind of what it feeds into Jaden Daniels' weaknesses. So the fact that on top of that, he probably won't have a run game is, I think, worrisome. Tampa Bay on the other side against Washington. I mean, this offense, Washington's been blitzing a lot too. Baker Mayfield is number one in success rate against the blitz. Washington plays more single high safety. That's what, Mayfield's been top 5 in success rate against single high and two high. So like with this run game, I think that's the difference. You could see either of these offenses, these pass offenses, putting up a big number. You could see either of these defenses giving up a lot. But I think the Bucks are going to be able to stop the run, and I don't think the Commanders are going to be able to stop the run with Bucky Irving, the Bucks have just smartly given more and more and more carries. I wasn't sure if they were going to do it this year. They've done it. They're giving Bucky Irving the full 18, 20 carries, even if it means Rachaad White gets none. And against this Commander team that is 23rd in line yards on defense, 28th in yards per carry allowed to running backs at 4.85. I think that's going to be the difference because Jaden Daniels, super efficient, amazing rookie year. Baker Mayfield's been just as efficient. So you're not like, this is one of these matchups where you're going to have to score, and any little thing is, that could be the difference in the game. I think the Bucks can put up a big number here, and I just don't think the Commanders keep pace. They have been keeping pace over the past few games. They came back against the Falcons. They came back against the Eagles once Hurts went down. I think their luck runs out here, kind of similar to earlier in the year when, we saw the Commanders just keep having these crazy results. And it was like, all right, at some point you're going to see the regression. I think this is another one of those points. The Bucks, pretty much all of their wins, except that Carolina one in overtime, which they shouldn't have even won, have been by margin. So high scoring game, total sitting at 50.5 as we record this. I don't mind laying the 3. If you're really queasy about it, you can also try to find a money line, but I think the value here is on the 3. Because I think everyone's looking at Washington like, okay, who's going to get upset this, and it's everyone's probably looking at Tampa Bay right for an upset. No one's that impressed with them. I think this Tampa Bay team is being slept on now. At points they were being overrated, but they're kind of like the poor man's Lions. Like they have a monster running game. They can still be efficient passing, veteran quarterback that's middle of the pack in talent, but playing at a top 5 level. Good offensive play caller, play designer, schemer, defense that can stop the run better than the pass and makes you nervous, but probably better than you think. I mean, yeah, I like the Bucks in this spot. Love the matchup for them against the Commanders here. Give me the Bucks.
Yeah, this would have been one of mine. But by the way, funny story is that last week I had the Cowboys plus 4.5 against Washington, and then we get done the pod, and then the talk of like Trey Lance is going to start.
Oh my
Kicked
God.
off, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" So then the line goes up, and closes 7. And I was like, man, this thing's gonna end 5 or 6. But they didn't get the 2-point conversion. But in that, do you remember in that game? I think the Washington's the most overrated team in the playoffs by far. Yeah, Daniels had a great year. By the way, last week he couldn't complete a pass against the Cowboys. He had the lowest completion percentage over
Second
expectation
time.
of any
Yeah.
quarterback. Yeah, I mean it was horrendous. Mariota came in and saved the day and saved their seed. Although the Packers ended up losing anyway. I think Mariota was number one in completion percentage over expectation last week, and Daniels was dead last. Uh, yeah, they won 12 games, but this roster just isn't that talented. By the way, I am looking forward to Lattimore versus Mike Evans. Um, that should be fireworks. But this is a team I have the easiest schedule in the league. They went 8-2 in games decided by 7 points or fewer. They had 6 wins on the final play of the game. 6. You're talking Hail Marys, Mariota coming in, saving the day, throwing a touchdown. I mean, the Falcons debacle. They had the lowest strength of schedule in the entire conference. Their strength of victory is only 358. That's the lowest of any NFC playoff team by far, even lower than these non-playoff teams: Dallas, Seattle, Arizona, Atlanta, San Francisco, New York. Just take a look at their past 4 games. They beat the bottom feeder Saints by 1 in New Orleans, who didn't get a 2 to win the game. They beat the Eagles then on the last play of the game by 3 because Jalen Hurts went down and they were about to get ran off the field in that game. Then they play a rookie quarterback making his first start with Atlanta on the road in primetime in Washington's biggest game in recent franchise history. They're on double digits at the half. Raheem Morris botches the clock and they miss a field goal to win it, and then they end up winning a coin toss and winning a game in overtime. And then last week, playing for a seed against Trey Lance, got outplayed until Mariota saved the day. I mean, it's the last 4 weeks. You're barely escaping Kenny Pickett, Trey Lance, Spencer Rattler. Come on. And they're this offense has dipped significantly. You look over the second half of the year. Let's just look at early downs, more predictive. First half of the year, third in EPA, fifth in success rate. Second half of the year, 20th in EPA per play, 13th in success rate. They've also been really lucky. Like, are they going to keep getting every single fourth down? They're eventually going to lose some fumbles. This team is running so good, and I trust the Tampa Bay run defense, by the way, second half of the year, number one in the league. Washington, well below average. Bucky Irvin should have a big day. Buck should be able to run it more here. Liam Cohen over Kingsbury all day. Buck secondary getting healthier. And by rookie quarterback making his first playoff start on the road against a quarterback with experience in the playoffs. I agree with this one.
No teaser for us this week. Let's get into our underdog money line parlay. And Stuck, so you like the Rams. So they're plus 102. And I agree with you on the Texans. They're plus 136. So make that a little parlay, plus 377. The parlay odds for that one. Any other thoughts on either of those games?
No, already touched on them. By the way, I don't know if you saw my tweet that went viral. The Ravens win the Super Bowl every 12 years. They did it
Nice.
2000, 2012, and now this is the 2024 season. Each of those years, they had a quarterback who was 28, Dilfer, Flacco, and now Lamar just turned 28. Each of those Super Bowls, they scored 34 points. So, and then I have the Packers fans who are telling me every 14 years with their new franchise quarterback, they go
Ooh.
96, 2010, 2024. I threw a little uh fun Super Bowl exact matchup of Packers Ravens. Last year was year of the chalk as far as the most obvious favorite won in every single sport. I'm predicting the NFL kicks things off. Year of the dog. When I say that, I mean like we're gonna have surprise champions. Um, so I'm I'm gonna say that the Chiefs don't win it. Now I don't know. I have my doubts about the Packers without Alexander and Watson being able to do it, but uh, just something that's fun. Another fun thing before we get to the final game that the Bills friend of the show, Anthony DeBundo, he asked me, texted me today and asked me a question. I'm curious to get your answer. He said, take away scheme, personnel, everything. If everything else was equal, coaching, and you had to make a playoff run, you had to make your only goal was to win the Super Bowl. Which NFC quarterback are you taking that's in the playoffs right now? You can take any one. Your team's equal, your coaching's equal, every setting is equal.
That's a good question. I'm going through them mentally.
Now I said Love and the only reason I said Love is because, well, I want to win a Super Bowl, so I want the upside, and like Love's ceiling is still extremely high when he's hot. Um, but like it's close. DeBundo said Daniels, which is outrageous because I'm not taking a rookie quarterback to make a Super Bowl run in any world.
And it would and one more is this assuming we're going through this NFC?
This season. But all the
Baker.
teams, yeah, but
Baker.
you're taking Baker?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I think you can make many different cases. That's why it's a good
you
question.
can. I thought about God. See, I don't want Stafford because I want more movement. Baker gives me like the best of all worlds. Like he might turn the ball over a little bit more, but he could throw accurately, deep, short, and like I really like the pocket movement and scrambling that he's added to his game. Like I feel like it's adding a lot of positive EPA. You know, with Baker kind of moving around in the pocket that just wasn't there before. So yeah, I would take Baker. I mean, remember Baker was like a top prospect at one point. He just had that disastrous, couple years. But if I just
he's still too jittery, and he's still too jittery in the pocket. Like I can't see him beating the upper echelon of the AFC.
I mean, hey, just think about this though. Bucks this year, what are they? The third seed, 3 seed, right?
Yeah,
they're 3 seed. They beat both seeds higher than them. They beat the Lions. They beat the Eagles. They took the Chiefs.
Although, in fairness, the Eagles were missing their whole team. Yeah, the Lions
but they also beat the Eagles. They also own the Eagles in the playoffs last year. Again, I mean, yeah, Eagles are missing who was it, Brown, I think, but they have good schemes against the Eagles. But listen, nevertheless, they beat the 2 seeds higher than them. They beat their first round opponent by 17, and when they were at their peak of injuredness, they took the 2-time defending world champ Kansas City Chiefs to overtime.
So does everybody though.
I'm just saying, man. Like the Bucks are like Baker's been balling this year, man. Like I feel like it's not just like at one point it was like all right, it's like scheme and everything around him, but like when I watch him now, it's like
Liam Cohen creating a lot of ton of credit, but Liam Cohen deserves a ton of credit.
Oh hell yeah. Oh, he's. I mean,
all right. Let's get to Bills Broncos.
Yeah. So we got the Bills hosting the Broncos. Bills up to 9-point favorites. The total 46 and a half at some spots. I thought about the under for this one. I like the matchups for both defenses better, but it's 2024 and it's the Bills, so they'll probably just score 40 by themselves. So what are your thoughts on this game?
I like the under here. I kind of lean Denver.
Yeah.
I show a tiny bit of that. The biggest problem here is the quarterback matchup. Bo Nix's been playing well, but he's making his first ever playoff start on the road against Josh Allen. Because when I look at this game, so like I just can't see Josh Allen losing this game to Bo Nix. But just on the surface, it's like great offense with Josh Allen versus a great defense, elite defense. And on the other side, it's like the Bills are an okay defense and the Broncos are an okay offense. The Broncos, so like there, you would say it's a wash. And then you kind of have to like some of the things that the Broncos have working for them as far as like being able to cover over a touchdown on the road in the NFL playoffs. They have a great coach in Sean Payton. It's always good as an underdog. They have a great offensive line and they have a great defense. Like those three things will get you a long way in terms of giving you a really good chance of covering uh, a spread that's over a touchdown. By the way, Bo Nix, the first quarterback in NFL history. Talk about a weird year. The first quarterback in NFL history to go 8-0 is 8-0 against the spread as a favorite during a season.
Oh, wow.
Uh, um, so yeah, and I think that the Broncos can methodically move the ball a bit. Like the Bills want to take away the explosive play. Like I think the Broncos can sustain some drives. I don't know, like if they're gonna be able to turn them all into touchdowns, but like they're gonna be able to eat the clock here. I think their defense can hang. But like at the end of the day, it's just like what's gonna happen is Allen's gonna make plays. He's gonna use his legs. He's gonna see some man here, and but I'd lean Denver. I do like the under. I'll probably be on the under 47, which is a key. But yeah, it just the core at the end of the day, like it comes down to the quarterback matchup. And rookie quarterbacks against McDermott not fared too well historically. 7 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. But I think the Broncos can stay in this, make it interesting, keep it low scoring, and it just like what scares me is Nick's just making a critical mistake or two against Buffalo's
Yeah, I got
zones, and
some like
McDermott
because
confuses them.
so I was looking at this
But that
too.
I think Peyton knows that and is going to like hold his hand. They're going to keep this real conservative, and that's you can do against the Bills. Like you methodically move it, not going to have them throw deep. The problem is like if they get behind, like
And they
then
will.
it can like snowball quick.
Yeah. Like, so the Bills defense fairly predictable scheme wise. They play zone at a top five rate. They play two safeties deep at a top five rate. Knicks versus zone coverage is 31st in yards per attempt, 24th in EPA, 25th in success rate. But his numbers against man are just a little better. But the big one is the interceptions go up 2.6% versus 1.5 against man. And then
Yeah,
too hot versus,
he just won't see a he just won't
yeah.
see a safety or misread a zone
And
sometimes.
that's even, and it's even worse when you look at the too high versus single high. He's had a lot of success against single high. His yards per attempt is 7.2, but against too high, just 6.4. And then the interception rate, 1.4 against single high, 3.3, 32nd against too high. Where, and the success rate's about the same for both. The EPA is significantly worse versus too high. So versus single high, 0.09 EPA per dropback against two safeties deep, negative 0.02. So that's a pretty big dip. Obviously, the turnovers factor into that a bunch, but yeah, it's like the for every advantage the Broncos defense has over the Bills that most teams don't. It's like you look at Josh Allen splits and the EPA is kind of the same against everything. It's like you might have, some differences in YPA or touchdown right here, interception right there. But yeah, I just it's tough with Knicks. And it's this is kind of like the Bills defense kind of reminds me of the Chargers a little bit, like more banged up and maybe not as talented version of the Chargers defense. But and the Broncos have hung with the Chargers, but in one of those games, it took till the fourth quarter. They made it look more respectable than it was. The second game, it was like a 34-27 game, but it's like the Chargers don't have the Bills offense. So it's like that it's like I could see the Bills like casually winning this by 10, but I agree. I would lean Denver, but I think I like the under a lot more. Might be on that
Agree.
one. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll
I
be on
think
the under.
because both defenses do have some edges over their opposing quarterback.
Yeah, I think the Broncos will be able to eat
Yeah.
up some clock.
Yeah. I mean,
And
we say that and then they try to run the ball with their clown car of backs. But I like that Peyton stopped Javonte, stopped giving Javonte a ton of carries.
yes, that helps. But like it's just gonna be like short passing attack, like
Marvin, give it to Marvin
oh,
over and over again.
and yeah. So but yeah, it's just scary. Like if you're like you're going to war, then the numbers. The rookie numbers are bad. First
Yeah.
road playoff start, first playoff start in general against a quarterback experience. Like you're going to battle with a Knicks ticket against Josh Allen on the road. It's scary.
Yeah. And Denver has dropped off offensively on the road, especially outdoor road games. I know they play outdoors in their home stadium, but yeah, Don't feel great about it, but yeah, I go under for this one over a side. All right, that's gonna do it for our
Oh,
wild
one last
card.
thought
Oh
on.
yeah, yeah.
Hopefully the Bills win. No disrespect to the Broncos. The Broncos aren't going to beat the Bills, the Chiefs, and then the Ravens on back-to-back weeks. So look, you're ahead of schedule, and maybe they will, but you're the chalk in the NFL. Don't rob us of Bills, Ravens next
Please.
Sunday.
The Steelers will be like, actually,
It'll be Steelers.
and it'll be like, we're gonna win now, and it'll be Steelers win, Texans win,
Yeah.
the
So then it
Bills
would be
win.
Texans at Bills, Steelers at Chiefs. Yeah, the AFC gets a lot less interesting. The AFC divisional round gets a lot less interesting. Like Bills Ravens is like game of the year type stuff.
Yeah, especially because you have the revenge from the Bills going to Baltimore and getting waxed, and now they got that 2 seed.
And
So,
that's who's supposed to potentially help dethrone the winner of that game
yep,
is
yeah.
supposed to do everyone's dirty work and get rid of the Chiefs for once.
Can't believe the year the Chiefs probably looked the weakest. They get that they lose one game when it matters, get the number 1 seed, and now they only have to face one of the Bills and Ravens, who are probably both a little better.
Yep.
Crazy. All right, that's going to do it for our Wildcard Weekend Action Network podcast. You can hear more of me every week with my guy Sean Kerner talking fantasy DFS, player projections, touchdowns, all that good stuff on a Fantasy Flex pod. And of course, you can hear Stucky talking college football playoff semifinals over on the Big Bets on Campus podcast. Make sure you check that out. Stuck is on X at Stucky2. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until the divisional round, let's get this money.
Let go.